Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Teach Middle East podcast. I am Lisa Grace, and today I have with me Ilona Taimela. I'm trying my best with her name. She is from Finland, and obviously her name doesn't roll right off my tongue, so I do apologize if I butchered it just a little bit. But I met Ilona a couple of years ago, right? I had gone to Helsinki, and we had a press trip there, and she hosted us along with some others for dinner. And all I can remember of her was that she was extremely hilarious, very, very courteous and inviting, and I felt right at home. And what I also remembered was that she had the most infectious laugh. So I don't know if we'll have anything funny today in this podcast for her to laugh, so you can hear what she sounds like laughing. But that's actually what I remember. But today's podcast is not about her laughter or her fun. It's about a more serious part of her. She is an educator par excellence. She's been working in education, Finnish education particularly, for many years, and her experience it's vast and it's wide. And we're going to be talking about a special project that she did recently with children in refugee camps. We're not going to give too much away. She will expound at great lengths about it. But I read an article about it, which was absolutely fascinating. And when I finished reading that article, I said to myself, you can do so much if you simply put your mind to it. And we think in our own little ways we can't help. Like, we read about wars and we read about things happening across the world, and we think, no, I'm a teacher, there's nothing I can do. But Ilona taught me in that article that there is a lot we can actually do if we set our minds to it.
You are listening to the Teach Middle East podcast, connecting, developing, and empowering educators.
So without further ado, welcome, Ilona. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lisa, so much. I'm honored to be part of your podcast series. I think you have amazing guests and topics all the time. And good to hear and see you also after so many years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you help our audience to understand a little bit more about you, your background within the Finnish education system, and how you've now transitioned into your own consultancy? Can you give us a brief sort of maybe bio?
Yeah, it will take some time. I mean, I try to be brief. So first of all, I have master's degrees in educational science, and I studied at the University of Helsinki. And I've also been educational consultant just for the city of Helsinki, consulting kind of, innovation and benchmarking innovation in different schools. And especially when we did the curriculum change in 2016. And I was also leading participatory issues in all of city of Helsinki. So 300 daycares, 100 schools and so forth. So I was doing pretty much. And also at that time when we met, I was coordinating the Helsinki Education Week. And that was kind of also part of the innovation, how to spread innovation from school to school, because usually teachers, they go from home to their own schools and they have no idea what is happening in the school next door. So that's why we wanted to have this kind of week when teachers, together with even their students, can go to another school and learn what they're doing. So that's kind of the things that I was doing back then. I jumped away from the city of Helsinki and made my own consultancy firm, because there was so much demand also from abroad. I had been already in Hong Kong and, for example, in India teaching teachers, and I have been teaching teachers in Finland since 1990s. So I have a background in that. And that's why then I made the consultancy firm, and I was supposed to go to Spain in March 2020. But then what happened is the corona was so bad that obviously that was all cancelled. But then I received a message for this particular project, what we're going to be talking about today. And the initiative was from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then it was financed by the Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland. And it was done through the Lifelong Learning Foundation of Finland, that has actually been doing distance education for 100 years. But first of all, the distance education, if you think about 100 years ago, was via letters. So letter writing, the teachers would put tasks on a letter and send it in a mail, and off it would go, and the people then who were learning would get it through there. So nowadays, of course, we have all the digital tools, so we can make it much more efficiently and quicker and so forth.
Yeah, it's fascinating, though, that so many years ago, Finland was at the cusp of education innovation. And today, people laud the Finnish education system. I remember on our trip to Finland, to Helsinki, I was just blown away by the innovation that I saw. And you know what stuck with me? What stuck with me was the space that teachers had to innovate. Like there was just nobody breathing down their necks saying, you have to do it this way. And if you don't do it this way, you're incorrect. I thought they were just so free to try, make mistakes, and then, get learning from those mistakes and try again. And that was just beautiful. But it wasn't only with the teachers. When we went to that school as well, there was a school we went to in the city, the students were happy to experiment as well. They were happy to try. It was such a culture of innovation. I just thought, wow, what are we missing in the other parts of the world? Why can't we embrace that? And I'm not saying that, any system is perfect, but what I saw in Finland was very, very good. And there are lots of elements in there that I thought that schools and government bodies in other places could adopt and could really make good use of.
Yeah, why that is because we really believe in autonomy of the teachers. But why we believe in autonomy of the teachers is because we have such a high teacher education programs and all the teachers have to have master's degree. So that is, I think, where we believe that they have a scientific understanding that they have been doing their master's theses and doing that kind of research themselves already during their studies. And therefore, we provide them the autonomy in also trying out. And like you say, that there's no pressure if you fail, because we would also believe, education is not brain surgery. Like you can't do mistakes and fatal mistakes at least. So every mistake, in a way, that what you would be thinking about is actually also a learning process, and being open with your own students or with your colleagues that I'm trying this out, and let's try out and how does it go? Mm. And so the students also understand it. Okay, well, we'll try it out, and if it doesn't work, and then we can figure out why didn't it work and what could we do better. So there is this kind of a mentality, I think, altogether in Finland. And also this particular project, what I did now to the Al-Hol in Syria, there was nobody from the ministry or anybody telling me what to do, what should I do. There was just a kind of question, can we do it? And I said, of course, let's try. And then it really worked out and we got really good learning results.
Yeah, which is a very good way to dive into the project. So I was reading about it, and you, along with your colleagues, set up a whole distance learning program with the Syrian refugees in that camp. Tell us all about it. I'd love my listeners to just hear from the start all the way to the end.
Yeah, actually, I have to a little bit say that it wasn't a refugee camp and it wasn't for Syrians. So it was a prison camp.
Wow.
It's a prison camp where the ISIS and the terrorists, the women basically are, as prisoners of war. And then the children are there as well. So we were kind of instructed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to teach the Finnish children who are there, because the Finnish government had made a decision to repatriate the ISIS women and the children. And because of the repatriation, we actually thought the project would be kind of just a pilot, a few months maybe, and then they would be back in Finland. So, we would a little bit give them a taste of Finnish language and culture, so it would be easier for them to integrate then back to Finland, or for the children for first time because they were born in Syria. But then it ended up being much, much longer. So it was actually a year-long project. In Al-Hol camp in Syria, there's about 60,000 women altogether. They're from international background. Most of them are Syrians and Iraqis. But there is this international annex where there are international women of different backgrounds, from Europe, from Americas, from different parts of Asia and so forth. But then we had Finnish women there. The Minister of Foreign Affairs Special Envoy diplomat Jussi Tanner already had their phone numbers because of the repatriation. And so he was communicating to them via WhatsApp.
How did they get there? How did these Finnish women get there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so they were taken as prisoners. During the time when the Syrian war ended, the ISIS terrorists, were basically taken as prisoners So these women had left Finland maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, as to, I don't know if they went to combat in the Syrian war, but they at least went there in the promise of, the Islamic State, in a way that they had been promised that there's a paradise and a really best Islamic State in the world. And, so some of these women then went there, some of them very young, even during their high school age, they had already left Finland and then gone there. And some of them married international, other ISIS fighters. And that was also in a way that why would then they speak Finnish to their children, for example, if they were speaking English with their spouse and Arabic among each other. So a lot of the women, they didn't even speak Finnish to their children, even though that they had Finnish citizenship. So also, the culture, language and everything, the citizenship, they always don't go equal, like hand in hand. So they were very multicultural. And some of these ISIS women also of Finnish citizenship, most of them were also migrant background. So they would have come to Finland already from a third country as children or so forth, and then immigrated here. And then after here, then they left to Syria. And now they were repatriating back to Finland. And then they had been there living in the Islamic State. And when the war ended, basically 2019 is when Al-Hol prison camp was set up. Or the camp had been there for a long time for the refugees, even after the Iraqi war and so forth. But it was a camp where then this international annex, it is still there. Yeah.
Wow.
But most of these women now have been repatriated during the project, and some of them escaped the place through Turkey. They came to Finland with the help of the ministry. And then some of them were actually repatriated by the diplomat, that he was able to negotiate with the Kurdish, kind of the governmental body that is there taking care of them. But we were, of course, concerned about the children. They didn't have any education. They didn't have anything to do really, kind of any routines at all. Like I said, most of them were very young. They were born there in Syria. They had only been during the wartime, and with different kind of traumas also, maybe sadness or depression and so forth. So we really wanted to provide them routines. We wanted to provide them joy, motivation for learning, kind of lifelong learning skills, even, so that they would have kind of interest into learning when they come back to Finland. But also we wanted for them to start hearing Finnish language and getting into the culture. But there were also some teenagers. So the children that we were teaching were, youngest were 2 and the oldest were 19, and anything in between. So you can imagine then the older ones, the teenagers, had actually been in Finland in school when they had left. But then back in Syria, they might have gone to some Quran school of the ISIS state, very, very, ideologically packed of their own ideology. And then at the Al-Hol prison camp, there was no really schooling. So for a few years, they hadn't had anything. So at the beginning, we were doing kind of assessment, individualized assessment of everybody, that what stage are they in. And the thing is that when, children in kind of war situations or any kind of crisis that they're going through, what happens to their learning is that they're not able to go through the normal developmental stages. So in the teaching also, we have to really take that into consideration, and we have to go really, really far back. So some of the older students even got, kind of task from second or third graders, even though that they would have been teenagers, because there was so much that they were lacking. And some of the youngest ones who had never had even heard Finnish language, we got them now, hearing language and starting to speak it, and the mother started speaking it. And there was a 6-year-old who learned how to read Finnish, not only sentences, but stories. So we were sending every day hundreds of messages, hundreds.
Let's pull it back a bit. I think for our audience, I want to kind of get some stuff clear. So these ladies and the children were in this prison camp in Syria. You were tasked with helping to teach them via whatever method. So you chose what method?
Yeah, so we did it through WhatsApp. So we had the phone numbers, and we did it through WhatsApp. And obviously the WhatsApp did not work as you and me, for example, would be able to do it, that we would be able to do videos, we would be able to send links or maybe PDFs, downloadable material. But because the internet connection is so weak, and also they had to somehow be able to pay for their mobile connections. So they said that, for example, even photographs were just too expensive to download. So we really did it through text messages, used a lot of emojis, and then voicemail. So voice messages, really. So that was the kind of the three. Sometimes some photographs. So some of the mothers were able to send us also photos of the children. Sometimes we didn't even get that. So we would only get, for example, voice from them back here and text as well. And every week we were also assessing it, that how was it going? That was it this week's task maybe too difficult or too easy? And, which way would you be going? So we were teaching different subjects, Finnish language and Finnish history and so forth, but also mathematics, the basics of mathematics, concepts, numeracy and multiplication, subtraction and all of that. And then also geography and civics to the older ones. And even some students, we were teaching English language.
Wow.
So there was a lot of different subjects that we're going through every day.
I'm trying to wrap my head around how you teach so many different subjects on WhatsApp without having stable internet connection, without having the ability to transfer sort of big files and giving that kind of interaction with video, etc. So here's what I wanted to find out. How did the mothers manage to help their children to do this? Because it would have taken a lot of input from them for it to work, right?
Definitely, yeah. The mothers had a very big role in it. Without them, obviously, this would not have happened. It went through their phone numbers and so forth. So first of all, this was voluntary to them. So we had to, in the beginning, we wrote a letter to them that, are you interested and willing? And most of them were, and we got more than 20 students. So that we started every morning at 9:00, so that they knew that the time that we would be sending the messages in the morning and the tasks. First of all, not everybody were present at that time because the mothers also had to maybe work. There's the kind of their own economy there as well, that they work and so that they get money to buy stuff. And some of the children, even the older ones, they were working as well. But anyway, so at 9:00, they would know that our messages would come. Some of them were there and we would be able to also chat. But we had all kind of pre-designed which messages are going to go and in which order and to which children, because there were different levels of children. We had 4 different levels of tasks. We call them apples, strawberries, oranges, and watermelons. So the little ones were apples. They were learning the language and the basics of numeracy. Then there was the strawberries, who would be between 6 to 9 years old, learning already to read and write and these kind of things. And then the little bit older ones were oranges, from 10 to 14 maybe, and then from 14 to 19 would be the watermelons. So we had all arranged on the previous days that, this day would be going these messages and so forth. But then, of course, we always had to a little bit also be flexible, because if we realized that some of the tasks was too difficult, there was no point continuing, obviously, on that road. So then we would have to go back and into our drawing board and draw the messages again in a way, to write them again and what would be working. And for the mothers, there was a lot of kind of voice messages, just, for the little ones, for example, just reading words. What are they? And they would need to have their children listen to them and maybe record their own voicemails to us so that we would hear, are they practicing them right or are they pronouncing it right? Finnish language is also not related to English or Arabic or many other languages. It's kind of its own unique language. But they would need to be very, very active, the mothers. So, but of course, again, sometimes they had problems and troubles, for example, because the mobile phones are forbidden in the in the prison camp. So we were using a forbidden kind of methods as well. It was all done in secrecy and so forth. So they would maybe message us that, okay, the soldiers are coming, we have to put the phones away. We would say, fine, just put it away. And a few days, then they would come back. Or then there would be a storm. The sandstorm would come and the tents would fly away. And they said that they would take, a few days to recuperate. And we would say, fine, just take your time and come back when you are able to. Or it would be just too hot for them, 50 plus degrees in the desert. And they would be, having no water. The children would be having diarrhea. There was a lot of different troubles. Some of them also just suddenly vanished. We didn't know where they were. And some of the women were transferred from Al-Hol camp by the soldiers to the other camp. There's a Roja camp as well, and that camp is more secure, or kind of that the soldiers would really strip them of all the phones, so the phones are taken away from them. So these kind of things, it wasn't always so, easy going, but there would be little challenges as well.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, this whole story is just blowing my mind, and I'm sure my listeners' minds as well. So how long was the program and what was the end result?
Yeah, so the whole program was about 1.5 years, actually. But in the very beginning, we thought that it would be just a few months until the summer 2020, and they would come, happily back to Finland. Only few did during that summer. And the first ones who came to Finland were actually the ones who had escaped the Al-Hol. And they had been able to travel from the Al-Hol camp to Turkey. And then from there, they were flown to Finland. So they would be the first ones to come. And then later during the summer, some other came as well. And then we realized that this is going to take much, much longer. So then we really started kind of developing the curriculum for everybody. And we said, okay, let's take it really week by week and month by month. Then we had some women coming during the winter 2020, about, little bit less than a year ago, during the Christmas time 2020. And then some came during spring and last summer 2021. Some more. So they were not coming all at the same time. And that was always kind of for us that we didn't know who is coming and what time and, how to kind of end it to each one as well. So some of them just suddenly disappeared and we heard, okay, they're back in Finland. Some women and children I met already also in Finland, and I helped them to continue also their own kind of, educational path here, because the women had been so young that their own education had been interrupted. And then I helped them to carry on as well in that sense. But yeah, so it ended up really because most of them were repatriated or the connection just totally got lost, that we were not able to continue anymore. There are some women and children still there.
That was my next question. Are there still, and are there programs, or is there anything happening for them at this time?
No, there is not. And no other country had made anything like this. So obviously some other country has been very curious about it, like how have you been able to do this? But some of the things that we did, to teach children in a very hardship location is that you could also transform into different other locations. If there are children, for example, in refugee camps or in remote areas where there's no, the internet is very unstable, for example, these are the kind of things that you could also be doing and taking along and learning.
Yeah, it's a very interesting case study. And the reason I find it so fascinating is because we often hear of the inequality in educational opportunities globally. And we're talking about places where there is just no stable internet. The kids do not have access to the IT infrastructure needed to carry out, the more elaborate forms of distance learning. But something as simple as WhatsApp and voice messages over WhatsApp, no, I didn't think that it would have been possible to teach a curriculum and help students to learn basic literacy and numeracy and history and civics and things like that over that form of communication. What do you think could be done for countries that are looking for solutions? Do you think this could potentially be a solution for countries that are remote or struggling to access or to grant access to certain areas?
Definitely. And, we believe, we started from the fact that we believe that, all the children have the right to learn. So we really believe in the universal children's rights. And that's why we started the whole project, that, to bring them also the joy, because, they have really almost nothing there, and the motivation and lifelong learning skills as well. Kind of, that there are tasks that you have to do, and, and they were also very active learning tasks, and not only just, reading and doing that, but they also go and find maybe stones in your area and categorize them or calculate them, and using the materials that they had, the sand and the stones or the sticks. So we were really trying to put ourselves also into that particular environment. But what are the kind of things that do they have? They might have different kind of clothes and, cutlery. And so these are the kind of things that we were really trying to use as learning material also. So some of the tasks were interacted into the environment. But otherwise, I really believe that this can be transformed and taken by other countries and other areas, because mobile phones, almost everybody have them nowadays. The fact is that the learning and the teaching was always not synchronous. So in a way that the task would go and it would be flexible, that they can do it on their own time, whatever time that they can find out. So we were here 24/7, and the messages would come to us maybe sometimes in the evening, really late, once they are in their tents and more secure and have nothing else to do, then they would be able to do those tasks, or during the weekends, for example. So, I wouldn't mind if it came like 11 p.m., as long as I was all the time just saying that as long as the communication is there, as long as we really built the trust relationship with them and the kind of motivation, because it was all voluntary. From me, from far here, from Finland, I wouldn't be able to say that, to you, please, you have to do this and that and the other. I have no power. So it really needed to be kind of so that they are really interested and always yearning. Like that one student said, I want to talk to the teacher, like, where is she? And so they know my voice because they're hearing my voice all the time. And I was reading poems to them almost every day. And I was reading a book, kind of chapters every week, and the story would continue, and they were really enjoying that particular story also. So, to make it curious, and that kind of learning task always then intrigues that I want this more. I want to get to the phones. I want to do the task. But when it's kind of mandatory and kind of really boring and not taking into consideration the child's abilities or the child's interests, then you don't have any power how it would continue. And this is, I think, in Finland, we really want to always individualize the learning as well. So some of the older children, for example, were maybe not so interested in some of my geography tasks. And I said, okay, what is it that you are interested in? So one boy, for example, said that he's interested in big animals. So then we got him to read about elephants and giraffes and polar bears, and so fine, then you get that kind of little thing that what is he interested in, and then the literacy would become better as well because he was able to read something that he was interested about.
This is, I keep using the word fascinating, but absolutely fascinating, because when you were talking about the fact that the students looked forward to getting your voice notes, I can see how that would be a more intimate connection with them than just sending maybe worksheets or sending activity sheets or assigning pages out of a book. What happens here is, even though it's asynchronous, they're still hearing you, you're still giving them feedback, they're giving you feedback, and that interaction is taking place. I would have never, ever, and I do mean, Ilona, never thought WhatsApp could be a teaching tool the way you have used it with those children and the ladies in that prison camp. It's mind-blowing, mind-blowing. What's next for you? What are you working on now?
Well, I've been asked several things, actually. I'm going to start teaching teachers actually in Palestine now from January onwards. It's more to do also with the SDGs. But also UNESCO has contacted me now a little bit to teach maybe teachers in different Asian places as well. So there's a lot of interest into this particular, of course, into this kind of WhatsApp teaching in hardship locations, but also otherwise, how to teach teachers to teach, how to transform the education, how to get this, flipped learning, and especially the sustainable development goals is something that I'm really enthusiastic about as well, and inclusive learning. So these are the kind of things that I'm helping now in different places of the world, and kind of not only just teachers how to teach, but it maybe also trainers, so that the trainers would then take it on and it would go much, much quicker, because we really need a lot of teacher trainers also out there.
Yeah. Wow. How can people reach you if they want to learn more, if they want to just connect with you? What's the best way for people to reach you?
I have been contacted in several ways. People can contact me through, for example, Twitter message, so at Ilona Taimela. And then I have been contacted through LinkedIn, of course, but maybe Twitter is quicker and easier.
Yeah.
And then some people have sent me, Facebook messages, or there's been messages coming all over. But of course, then if people do have my email, it's ilona.taimela@helsinkieducation.com. So then through there as well, my email.
Brilliant. I'm going to put those links as well in the show notes, and people can connect with you to learn more. This has been fascinating. We're winding down. I have one last wildcard question for you.
Okay,
as a question I ask many school leaders and people who work within the education industry, and that is, what are your greatest, I would say, 2 greatest wishes for education in the future?
Well, after this particular project that I did, my wish is that nobody would have to learn in secrecy. And I never kind of could have even understood that people have to learn in secrecy. So that's my wish is that we would make learning open. And unfortunately, it's not always possible. But therefore, the second wish is that even those people who have to learn in secrecy, let's make that also happen, because that is also possible. Because learning has to be universal in a way that is a universal right for everybody. And there's so much knowledge and everything out there that we people want to expand their minds and learn new skills and understand the world better. So I think after this particular project, I'm really wishing to make the education and learning accessible for everybody, even if it has to be in secrecy.
That is such a good wish. That's such a good wish. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today. It's been fascinating. Gosh, that word has been used a lot, but it has been fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And up here in Finland, we have like minus 16 degrees, and I know you're in the warm over there. But
yes, come to Abu Dhabi, Ilona. Come on over.
Please, let's make that happen as well.
Yes, it would be brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Teach Middle East podcast. Visit our website, teachmiddleeast.com, and follow us on social media. The links are in the show notes.